Welcome back, everybody, to the development of Office Combat, one of my entries to the Game Boy Competition 2021. As you can see, currently we have a very basic thing where we jump around and the enemy, gets hit by us and they follow us whichever way we go onto them. We don't currently turn around, but we can hit them enough to go to the floor. So in this episode, I want to add some more sprites that lets us, go to the other side of the enemy and face the opposite way, and they will face us too. I want to make it so we can get hit by them. So that means the other enemy has attacks, and that means we need to have a hit animation of us getting hit, and also what happens when we run out of health. And then once I've done those sprites, I'm gonna, show you how I implement all of the coding and the scripting for it. So yeah, let's hope this all works out, and let's get started. So I've already done all the sprite work for this stuff. I just need to make sure I take the correct bits and export them correctly and put them into the game as we need them. So I'm going to start with the enemy punching so that we can get hit. So we're in GB Studio now, and we have access to the frame. I've exported that one, only the frame of it hitting left. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the character, and I'm going to make it so when he knows he's at the right distance, he attacks. What I've also noticed is that I'll just add an extra actor in, this is trying to always get to exactly on top of the player. So if I just get okay, so let's imagine this is the player. Obviously the player is actually spawned in at the beginning, but they're constantly trying to get on top of the fighter. So what I actually want to do is check whether or not it is at the correct place. And this will have to be expanded on as we add the different directions, but I think as a good place to start is just to add a single hit when they're one away. So first thing I'm going to do is understand that, so when it's greater than, it's on the right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a local value of closeness, something like that. We can always rename it, and we're going to set it to the player's variable for x, which will then say, okay, this is exactly the number, and then we want to add 1 to that, so that this character doesn't try and get to this position. Instead, he tries to get to this position, so then the punch can try and hit. You see, if we were 1 away, then the punch would actually hit. So I can already tell you that we can add a 1 to this variable. We then want to have another thing of the same thing here, but instead of checking for the player X, we check for the closeness. And then if that's true, we move. So let's just remove this stuff. And if it isn't true, then we can re-enable the else of this, and then we can punch, right? So if it is in that position, it punches. Okay, so what this is currently doing is checking to see if this is on the right of this by taking both values and just seeing if it's bigger than it. We then set this new variable to this variable of the player, and we add 1, imagining that the player is 1 to the right. And so that we can then use the same check to say, is our guy in that position? And if he is, actually, if it's not in that position, it's greater than it, then it moves 1 more, right? It gets closer to that position. But once it gets to that position, that's where it's pretending that the player is, then we can fight. So I'm going to take the attack from the player's attack. So you see now it sets the sprite sheet, attacks, waits, and then sets it back to normal. And let's see if that works, shall we? Okay, so he moves towards us still, and doesn't seem to be attacking. So let's see what we did wrong. Okay, so the thing I did wrong is I put it around the wrong way. If we go on the opposite side of the... it's not going to work because it's just unfeasible, because I've put it in the wrong bit. I should have put it in the less than, because it's actually player is less than fighter. I thought it was fighter was greater than player. which is not. So let's just move it up here. And we also need to take the move thing back and put it down into this. There we go. So I've swapped it around now so that we're actually putting it in this thing where the player is less than the fighter, meaning the player is on the left of the fighter. I had it in the thing where the player is on the right of the fighter, and therefore those values just didn't make any sense. So let's try again. And you see here he's just constantly attacking, meaning that he's not actually moving, because it's pretty simple as well. I didn't change this to equal to. We want it so when it's in the exact same position as it is. Yeah, we should have had it so that the closeness is equal to the fighter X, and then if it's not, it moves, and if it is, then it does what we want it to do. So we did that backwards as well. But if you know what you're doing, then it's very easy to figure out what went wrong, especially if you keep testing after every single thing that goes wrong, because you've only changed a couple things, so there's only a couple things that it can be, and you've just had impact on them. So let's see. Okay, yeah, now he's attacking. Only problem with this now is that the attack itself is behind the player, which is just not great. It's not the end of the world, but it is also annoying. This kind of thing is annoying because we don't really have much control about where it sits. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it so when they punch, they then move back one. You know, like they punch and then duck out, and then they move back in and duck back out, right? So let's just copy this and put this here, but change that to 1 so that they move right. Hopefully this makes it so it's a bit less annoying. It's a shame. Okay, punch, back out, punch, back out, punch, back out. And you see that it kind of adds some dynamics to it. Still not perfect. And you see now we get locked in this death stare when we're on top of each other. So this is because it's checking to see if it's less than, it's checking to see if it's greater than, but it's not checking to see if it's equal to. So we need something to be, if it's equal to, then do this. Which would be, you know, like move right or move left or move random. So that's another thing, but that can be that's an easy fix that is just a single line of code. So we might as well do that now while we can. So we just want to put equal to and then choose one. It's already chosen for us. Easy. And then that's fixed. So what I'm going to do next is add it so when the player gets hit, something happens to them. So I'm just going to take the on hit event of the enemy, just copy it, and put it onto the player. Simple. This will need some changing. As you can see, it just says local 2 and whatever. But what we actually want to do is set this to a global, because this is the player's been hit. So player knocked. And this is meant to be now the player's health, I think. So let's try and make one of them for them. So we now have, when the player's knocked back on the hit, then it sets it to true, and then if their health is 0, then it sets their sprite sheet to the dead thing. But we don't have a player dead thing, so I'm going to do that right now. We will also need the player being hit, so let's make sure we add that as well. Okay, so now we have the player being knocked back, and we also have the player knocked down. And if we go back into the scene group 1 hit, then we can choose the correct stuff. So we want it so when they're dead, so it's player dead, and we also want it so the player has been hit, or I called it knocked. And then we just want to set it back to the correct frame. There we go. And then set the thing back to false of the player being knocked. Oh, and the subtracting 1 is the player's health. And then we just want to make sure that on scene initiate, we set the player's health at the beginning. So math functions, and then we just want to set the player health. And I'll set it to a high number like 10. So actually no, 4, because then we can more easily get hit back. And you know, test it out a bit easier. So let's first test our hits. Our hits do fine, and we just got hit. And let's try and do that again. There's some weird stuff going on then. Okay, so I get hit back. So obviously we got knocked down, but we're still getting punched, right? So you have to ask yourself, why is this happening? So I would imagine that, let's just look at this check here. The player knocked back is false. Yes. No. You see when we're dead, it doesn't do it. So what I'm going to do is put this outside of this. And then it should work, but obviously it shouldn't work because we'll be dead anyway. And once we're dead, we need to kind of stop everything from happening. We also need to stop the button presses when we get hit, because we don't want to be able to jump and move around when we get hit. Maybe we do. And that will be a balancing problem, you know, of like how long do we want the player to be inactive for, because they'll just be angry, you know, mashing the buttons trying to become active. So let's see. Let's get hit. And obviously, like, I'll get hit and jump around for you. See that? We're jumping around. So obviously I didn't press play again. So if we get hit again, maybe one more time. There we go. We're down. And we're moving around, which I love. But then when we punch, we're back on our feet. So in my Dead Dungeon game, I made it so when you die, you just get reset back to the start. And that would be a very simple thing to do. In my other games, I've made it so when I, you know, get hit back, then I add a script, you know, like a touch a button script, and then just do this, so you have no input because there's nothing in this thing. And then after that's happened, it then removes, you know, remove attach script, and then you just put them all again, so you're back to normal. And then you have to add in again the, you know, for example, the punch script, because the punch script is our own custom script that we have control of. So we just want to make sure we have that. And that would be how you control the movement in the knockback. So I'm adding this so that we can see it, you know, this theory in action, and then we can work on what happens when the player goes behind the enemy. Okay, so I've added this to the script so that we can, you know, test out how we would lock the player out of our actions and then bring them back in as well. So I know that the A button is the only thing that actually matters. The start button is just for me to reset the scene, so I don't want to reset that. And obviously to attach a script to these buttons would be to lock out the player from moving these, from moving around, because these are the, you know, these are the movement keys and this is the jump key. To the bottom of the script, and also put it into the, make sure it's in the else, because we want to have it, we don't want to have it so when we're dead we can, you know, still do the stuff. We only want it to be removed once we've waited that 1 second of the knockback and got our sprite sheet back. And then I'm going to paste in the attack script so that the player can attack again. Easy as that. So basically what happens is they get hit, they lose access to the buttons, and at the end, once they've been hit, it then removes everything from the buttons so that we can have access to our movement again, and also then reattach the attack onto the A button. So let's see how that works. Okay, so obviously we have all our access to everything. We get hit, and we get pushed back twice. Okay, so now we're seeing the balancing issues. That 1 second wait is so long that, you know, the enemy is taking advantage of us. there is a wait here, you see, so it's 1 second. So 0.5, change that back down, and then let's try it again. And hopefully that short time is enough for us to be able to snap out and, you know, not get pummeled. The main problem is when we're against the wall and we don't move as well. Okay, so that is a problem. Let's see if it's... I want to get hit and then mash, you know, the punch button to see if we can escape it. And we can't, which is not great. Maybe it's because we're not actually facing the right way. I see now. I made it so I think I'm facing the right way. Okay, so because we've moved backwards, I think... Yeah, okay. Because we've moved backwards, our direction technically faces left. And then because we're like locked out of movement, we have to move a tiny bit right in order to set our direction to right, because the offset of the attack is 5, and it goes in the direction that you face. So the fact it's 5 means that it's basically shooting it behind the player if they're facing, you know, if they've been moved -2. So I'm going to remove this so that it doesn't have that problem. And I might leave this maybe, you know, 0.7 seconds rather than 0.5 or rather than 1 second. And hopefully that fixes the thing where we have enough weight, and if we were to mash the attack button, we would still be doing damage to the enemy. But it might just be a problem with the directioning, but it, as well, maybe we want to set the direction of the player before we attack and use this sprite sheet. But we'll have to do some more testing, I think. So before this video gets too long, let's add in the opposite movements for the characters and the player. I'm going to start with the other character because we can have an update thing on this character. We can't have it on the player, and we need to create an extra actor in the scene. So to start, use a true or false to say whether or not they're facing left or right, so that we can then use that value in feeding into everything else. So let's begin. Let's think about that. I'm just going to have an event group first. And we just want to say if. So I've added a if actor relative to actor. So if the player is left of this actor, then we just want to set just a math function. We want to set to true a value called the player. I think I just call it player left, and this value is now very important. And we can have another one in the right as well. So set to false. The player left is false. And the idea is, let's actually call it player facing right, because just to add some clarity. So facing right. So the player is facing right. And this means that the actor is facing left, right? So if the player is left of the actor, then that player is facing right, and that is true. Okay, so now we can use that. You can basically just copy this whole thing and switch out the sprite sheets inside of it, and also change around how each thing works. So we now want to use this value here to decide whether or not they should attack in which direction. And because we have this, on update, then we can actually put this inside of, the thing. And it means we don't have to edit this one bit, because that is if the player is on the left facing right, then that's what we do. But what we do want to change is what happens if it's the opposite way around. So I'm just going to go into the opposite, and I'm going to switch everything around, right? So I'm going to do player is greater than the fighter X, which already is technically a check, right? It's already being checked by this if it's relative to. So this becomes kind of pointless. Okay, so here is where it begins to matter. On the hit event of the character, of the enemy, when they get hit, we want to make sure that they move the correct way and they get the correct sprite sheet, especially when they come back to it as well. So I think we'll have to have 2 checks, mainly because there's a second wait, and if the players pass them, then they will have to do something different. So we'll have 1 check before and 1 check after the wait. And we just want to obviously put it in as usual into the top, and then do the opposite in the bottom, and then obviously down here we just put this in the top, and then put the other one in the bottom. And that should be the enemy set up correctly. There shouldn't be anything else to do, but there might be issues with this extra layer of functionality of checking which way. But let's do it. Okay, so they're moving as usual. We punch them, they get hit. What happens if we get punched? Fantastic, everything is working as before. And now here's the problem, they're not turning around. So here's the question. The player isn't left off, so therefore we do this. And the player... Okay, so the problems I thought were going to happen are there. So I'm just going to simplify this thing, right? So what we needed to do is if the player is to the right, then we need them to move towards the player, and if they are at the correct position, they need to punch. So we've already checked to see if the player is to the left of. So if the player is facing right is false, which is what's happening here, then we want to, obviously we want to set the closeness to player X, and then subtract 1 to get it to here. To 1 left of the player. And then we want to check that closeness. And if it's equal, then we punch. If it's not, then we move 1 to the right, which is this. And we can delete this. And we can delete this. And we shouldn't need this either. So I've cleaned it up now. I've made it so, obviously if this fighter hit is false, then we do what we should do, and I hope that will work now. If not, I'll have to clean up the other side. Okay, so we get hit, he moves back, as he should, and then if we jump over him, he's now moving towards us, but he's not switching which way he's moving. And that is a key factor, because we haven't even told it to. Of course we haven't. And I'm just going to clean up the other side as well, so it'll make it easy for us. So I'll just do exactly what I did last time. I'm just going to strip out what we need, make sure the values are correct, which we know they are because they're set up for this exact way. And then we can delete the extra stuff that only meant something when they were around the opposite way. And then we obviously, if this is false, then we want to set the actor sprite sheet. So what this means is every frame it's checking is the player facing right? Is the player to the left of the this guy? And if he is, then we make sure that we're facing the correct direction. Which means I'm gonna put it under another variable, because I know that if every frame we're just setting it to this sprite sheet, if we set it to the correct sprite sheet, obviously, if every frame we're just setting this sprite sheet, then it's gonna just basically not look like he's walking. He's just gonna be stuck on this frame basically, which doesn't look great. So I'm gonna say if true, then we say if true, but then on false we'll set it, and then set it to true. So set true, and we'll set what the thing we're setting is the local value of frame updated. And what I think I need to do as well is add an extra piece of information in here. I'm going to add frame updated left, because this is the left frame, and I'm going to set false on another one. Obviously we've kind of run out here, so I'm going to have to make another one and call it frame updated right. And I'm going to actually change this to a global variable as well, just for consistency's sake. Frame updated left, and what this means is there's a different value for each way it's facing. And what this means is it's not just constantly setting it to it. And when we set it to the opposite frame, it then does it once, and it only needs to do it once. So let's just copy this. And I'll put it in before here. And I'm just going to swap these out. So set it to right, set this one to the left, set this one to right, and then put this to character move 2, because we're facing right now. And that should be enough to stop it from flickering, and also just generally just being annoying. So let's see how it works. There shouldn't be any flickering. And you see now they turn around and they hit us, and we get, put back into a shocked position. Let's see what happens when we hit them from the opposite way. There we go. Obviously, our player character doesn't yet face the opposite way. There we go. So now we just need to do the same thing on the player. And this is a bit more difficult, but luckily we've got most of it already done onto this here. So it's basically the same thing. So what I'm actually going to do is call this, in brackets, character. Or actually I'm going to call it actor, because we will need another one for the player, because this is an important part of, making it so it works. So I've been thinking hard, and I think I do need an extra actor. I'm going to pin it to the screen. It's a blank sprite, so we can't see it in game, and it just acts as the game manager, like we do in some other of our tutorials. And we're just going to do the same check. Well, this actually does the check for us, right? On update, this little guy says if it's this, then player facing right is true. So we just want, we want to do the same thing of if knocked back, right? So if knocked back is false. So if false, we just want knocked black there, player knocked. So if the player's been punched, then we don't want to update the frame, and we also don't want to continually update it. So what I'm going to do is disable the else, and I'm going to go into the other actor, and I'm going to take this script we were just working on, copy it, and paste it into here, but also understand that we need to know which way the player is facing. So if true, and then this true thing, we need to check which player so player facing right, and now we just need to know which one this is. Frame updated left and right. Let's just see which way this is. It's facing left, so this goes in here. And obviously we just need to make sure we change these from, I'm just going to copy what it says, but I'm going to make a new variable. and I'm going to rename the actor to player. So now we have a new variable. It's called frame updated left player. And I'm going to do the same thing for the right. Okay, before I explain this, I'm going to copy this thing and then, reverse the values again, because this is the opposite way. Okay, so now I can run through you what this actually means, right? So first of all, we're checking to see if the player has been knocked back, right? Once this is false, right? Like, so we've finished being knocked back. It then checks, is the player facing right? With this true value, which is set on update by this thing. And if it is true, then it asks, is the frame updated to right? And if it is, then it sets the opposite one to false. And if it isn't true, then it sets it to true and also sets our sprite to the correct sprite sheet. Okay, so imagine on update, this actor has just set this variable here, player facing right, to false because the player is now facing left. Then it will go into here and it would, instead of going through the true bit first, it will actually go through this bit first because we've set it to false here. So instead of it being true, it else does this, which is set the correct frame, then set the value to true. And once it's set to true, it then goes in and sets the other one to false. And that means that when it goes, like every frame is constantly updating it to false, so that when it gets back to this, it goes to this first and then goes back to this. And I really hope that makes sense, but it's quite advanced. And now we also need to make sure that we're doing the correct values on the punching and also when we get hit. First of all, I'm going to play a punch, right? So when we press A, then we use the attack, and this is where we check to see which direction they're facing. We just say if true, and then we just need to look at the player facing right, and then we just need to pop that in where it usually goes because that is the correct right, and then do the opposite for the left. And I haven't actually made that frame, so I just do that quick. Okay, there we go. So I dropped it in. So what happens now is if the player is facing right, then it does this one. If it's facing left, then it does this one, right? It's just a different sprite sheet facing different directions. This can be the same because it's all to do with the offset and which direction they're facing physically. And then obviously after the wait, we want to check to see which way they're facing again, so we can put in the correct sprite sheet here. Easy and simple. So obviously this attack script I put into the on-player hit. When they get knocked back, it then resets them, all their buttons. So I just need to drop that in there and delete the old one. And we can hide that, forget about it. And now obviously we need to make sure we check which way the player is facing for each one of these things as well. The dead one doesn't matter, but the knocked back does, and so does setting it back to normal. So you see here, if the player's facing right, then their attack thing is facing right, and if not, then they're facing left. And then the same thing needs to go onto these. So if the player's facing right, then they go to player move 1, and if they're facing left, player move 2. And that should be it. That is everything. So let's see how it goes. Okay, so you now see that we're now facing the opposite way. The only thing I'm noticing is when they switch around, it looks very janky because I put it very heavy to the back of the sprite. It means that when they flip like this, then all of the weight that's on this side now gets put onto this side of the sprite. You see how when I do this, everything is flipped? Well, you would expect it to kind of rotate down this line here. It does it obviously through the center, which isn't something I can really fix, mainly because I would have to move it all over, and it might mean that the punch ends up looking like they're stepping back as they punch forward. So this is a kind of a problem that it's kind of graphical, kind of limitation-y, but also down to my designer's choice. I could easily move them over 1 pixel to make it less of an issue. I could even make it move it over 2, and it would kind of fix it. So that is something to think about if you ever encounter that problem. Let's jump back in and keep looking. Obviously, we want to kind of get hit from both angles. Okay, so now we're on this side. Okay, so you see there, oh, we've spawned it. Okay, good. Okay, I need to get past him. But you see, he walks up to me. Okay, good. Before, I thought that he tried to walk past me in order to punch me. Let's check he's not doing that. Nope, he's not doing that here. Okay, so if he walks past me, then punches me, that's bad. If he walks up to me, then punches me, that's fine. Fantastic. So I think we did it, guys. I think we've now got a little combat thing. Obviously, it's very simple in the way we just punch and then move away. And obviously the other player doesn't really jump and avoid us. Okay, so I think that's a success. We now have it so we can look both ways. You know, when we pass the player, the other thing, then we turn around. We can get hit. And yeah, it does it. We did it, guys. We did what we wanted to do. I think that definitely adds some polish to it. But there are some little tweaks I need to make before the next episode. If you want me to show you those tweaks, then please tell me in the comments. But yeah, I'll put my patrons up on the screen right now. If you like the video, like the video. If you didn't, then dislike it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'd love to hear your opinions on this and what you'd like to see from this series and all my other series in the future. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, guys. So thanks for watching.